Well, first, before I go anywhere, I just want to thank Yasoda and Sri Radhika for their very kind hospitality. They kept me at their home last night, and just wonderful, wonderful host and hostess. I'm very grateful to them for their kindness to me. When he mentioned to me that to get an opportunity to speak with you all, he didn't inform me that you've had significant personalities come through here, like Shasika Prabhu and Hari Prasad, and I mean, I'm nowhere near the category league of these two devotees, so if your expectations are anywhere up here, I'll just let you bring them right down here from the start. But
don't believe a word.
But at any rate, I'm grateful to be here. It's the life and soul of devotees to speak with other devotees, to share our realizations. You know, the impetus for this was from Prabhupada very early on. He would be in a Bhagavatam class, Prabhupada personally sitting there and turned to us, so now you speak today. And you can imagine you sitting in front of Srila Prabhupada and he asks you, so you speak today on the Bhagavatam. But this was Prabhupada's training to us to regularly put ourselves in the position of addressing Vaishnavas, of sharing our realizations. This is what he wanted to hear. What are your realizations? What have you learned? And we do this on a regular basis. Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya. We do this on a daily basis, Srimad Bhagavatam class. Whether we're directly sitting in the temple in the class or whether we're hearing it through the internet or listening to it later in the day, whatever, this is our method. So, you know, to take an opportunity to speak to a group of devotees, however big or small, is really what we live for as Vaishnavas. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to fulfill a request of Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jana Jana Shalakaya Chaksuyurumidam Minatasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pandum Lam Chaiti Giri Yakripatamaham Pandya Shri Gurum Dinitayana Vanchakapatiri Vischapi Kasinavaya Vicha Pachintana Pavani Vaishnava Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vedikara Vishvasvi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I had suggested that I would speak on the subject of Kartik and Kartik Vrata and following Kartik as we are approaching the Kartik season just in a very few short days. I believe it's the end of this coming week, 13th. And as I was sitting on the plane yesterday I was reading through the first canto of the Bhagavatam. I had just given class in Alachua on the first canto of the Bhagavatam on chapter 6. And so I was reading the successive verses, just kind of following it through. This is a very well-known verse, at least a couple of lines out of it are, but it's got an important commentary that I found in the purport that's relevant to what I was going to say today. Praye la payusha sabya kalav asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya yupadrata. And of course the translation, O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Not exactly the list of adjectives we like attached to our name, but it's our scenario in this age. And what caught my attention was here in the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, in Kali Yuga, the duration of life is not shortened so much because of insufficient food, but because of irregular habits. By keeping regular habits, by eating simple food, I don't know where birthday cake fits in on that, any person can maintain their health. Overeating, over-sense gratification, over-dependence on another's mercy, and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. So these four things very clearly, Prabhupada says that what is shortening our lives in this age: overeating, over attachment to sense gratification, over dependence on the mercy of another, and the artificial standard of living that we've established for ourselves. And as Kali Yuga progresses, this artificial standard of living increases more and more and more and more and more. So these four particular items that Prabhupada mentions in this purport are addressed by the observance of vrata, by the observance of austerities. Now, we all know austerity and tapasya, this is the very life of the Brahmin community. And whether we're Brahmin by exact initiation or Brahmin by practicing the activities of Krishna consciousness, which are the Brahminical activity, this is the hallmark of our Brahminical culture: austerity and penance, tapasya. And we see throughout the Vedic history that this concept of tapasya is what gave the Brahmins their tejas, their strength, their power. It wasn't because they had gotten so many votes at election time, or because they had killed so many people in battle, but they gained their power, the Brahmins, by the performance of austerity. When Prabhupada famously would quote Chanakya Pandit, when Chanakya Pandit was advising the king, he did not live in the court, he lived in a hut outside. When Narottam Das Thakur returned to Katuri to see what was going on there, to continue his preaching there, he had been in Vrindavan, and Jiva Goswami said, now you return to your preaching fields. He sent first Srinivas to West Bengal, then he sent Narottam to East Bengal, which is now Bangladesh, and then he sent Shamananda to Orissa. This was their original home places. And you go back there and preach now, what you've learned from me here in Vrindavan. So when Narottam returned there, he was received by his mother and father, who were quite elderly and had turned the kingdom over to Santosh, his cousin brother, as they say. But the interesting thing is that the kingdom should have been turned over to Narottam. This was the arrangement. But Narottam had become an renunciate, left home, and so Krishnananda Dutt's brother, sorry about that. At any rate, his son Santosh, he took over the kingdom. And in taking over the kingdom, he followed all the proper principles. So anyway, when Narottam came back, encouraged, you'll live here. The mother said, let me show you your room. We've kept it just as you left it. Narottam was a little reluctant. No, I don't want to. No, please. And the father stepped in. He said, no, he's a sadhu now. He's not our son anymore. So Santosh arranged for a grass hut on the outskirts of town. Narottam would stay there with a handful of disciples, like that. So this was where they got their potency, because they would follow this type of thing. And generally, there was a deep mood of renunciation present in these activities. Even if they were advising or associating with the kingly class, they weren't partaking in these activities. So this was the traditional role of a Brahmin in that time. Prabhupada, amazingly, has given us all the opportunity to adopt the Brahminical lifestyle, even as we're in the comforts of our household ashram and living the life that we live, without having to actually take this renunciate role, so to speak. It's not unfounded, though, that within our tradition, householders who perform austerity, and that is exemplified most ideally by Kulavesha Sridhar. Kulavesha Sridhar was, of course, the intimate associate of Mahaprabhu. He lived very, very simply. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Mayapur and visited where his house was. It was out in the banana grove, and he lived very simply. He lived in an area where banana trees grew freely. What do banana trees produce? Banana trees produce bananas. And so what was his business? Selling bananas and banana products. And banana stalks and banana leaves and banana flowers and bananas themselves. So how much money can you make? How wealthy can you become selling a product that I can go on the street and pick for free? But this was Kulavesha Sridhar's life, and he lived very simply. And whatever he got, he maintained himself very easily like that. It wasn't a very opulent lifestyle, but this was the example of renunciation that he showed, following in the path of the Brahminical culture, and as a disciple, as a follower rather, of Srimad Mahaprabhu. So, Kulavesha Sridhar is a very classic example for us of that. Because as householders, we get a little comfortable. We've got our estates or our houses, whatever it is we have. We have our cars. We have our comfort zone that we've become fixed in, and generally, we're always increasing it. This is the nature of household life. We're always increasing that comfort zone, expanding it, so on, adding to it, like this, and if we're not, we're usually prodded that we should, either by the spouse or by the other family members or by the in-laws, and what to speak of society at large. Your goal is to not just be satisfied there, you really do something. Come on, get a second car, get a third car, get, whatever it is like that. So, therefore we see that in the secular world, this idea, this view of being renounced, of being, performing tapasya and austerity, it's not really possible. And within our household life as Vaishnavas, it's very easy. I mean, we're all performing the same basic standard tapasya, the 4 regular principles. No intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating. For the common people, this is just unheard of. I work with, how shall I politely say it? Wonderful rednecks. They're great people. I enjoy working with them. But the idea of not taking any intoxication, the idea of not hunting and killing and eating animals, the idea of not loosely associating with the opposite sex, the idea of not engaging in, different types of gambling, this is just unheard of. It's just like, how is it possible? So, for us, things like this, like eating only prasadam, these are austerities, following a codicy. We're very careful. It's a codicy. All right, it's going to interrupt my day, but I got to do it. So we take these things after years of doing them. It's just something we do. Not a big deal. But for those that are not accustomed to this lifestyle, this is really a serious austerity. So this gives us a foundation upon which we can embrace additional austerities. And this month coming up of Kartik, this is what part of this austerity is about. Now, Kartik is the culminating month in the 4-month Chaturatma period. Chaturatma is, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, something that should be followed by all classes of society. Not just the sannyasis or the brahmacharis, but by everyone. And there's actually, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas have 64 particular branches of bhakti that they follow, and Kartik is listed in this. It's interesting because Chaturatma Vrata is not listed in those 64, but Kartik is the culmination of Chaturatma, and therefore it is suggested because it's called the vow of Ujjva, which we'll get into that in a little bit. So, there are different options, different vows. If we have a little time, maybe at the end we can go over different vows that one can follow during Kartik that are a little bit complicated, But this allows persons who are performing bhajan, who are unaware of the deeper meanings of Shastra, because not everybody that performs some devotional activity is going to be a pundit. We don't have a whole lot of Hari Prasads, So, but this availability of doing austerity gives a doorway into some of these types of realizations. We have the example of Mahaprabhu. He himself followed Chaturatma. Stayed strictly in the one place, stayed, simply. Because when the rainy season comes, the sadhu, it's difficult for them to travel, so they would find a place and stay put. But generally speaking, staying put means you get comfortable. That's how we're also comfortable, I've been living in the same house now for 22 years. You're very comfortable with where everything is and how everything is, and you get a little disappointed if it's not exactly like you expected. So, the renunciates, when they weren't traveling, they would do this, and they would do these austerities during this time because it would help them to not get attached to the comforts of being in one place. So, we may be unable to follow certain very strict types of guidelines that are given there, But we do have some opportunities made available to us, and that's by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada very expertly boiled down the milk, if you will, and made it very easy for us to do these activities in a manner that we can follow. He notes in his Chaitanya Charitamrita that even the householders should follow these 4 monthly restrictions in following Chaturmasya. That is, namely, the first month, no spinach; second month, no milk; third month, no yogurt; second month, no yogurt; third month, no milk; and the fourth month, no urd dal. I was so happy when the second month finished. So I live in South Florida, the southern part of the country, and yogurt as a daily thing is really helpful. But we do that austerity. That's what's there. So, what type of devotional service is it that we can perform during the month of Kartik? What type of activities? This month, as I mentioned, is called Ujva Vrata, and it takes place during the fall season. And in Vrindavan, this is the prime time, which now has spread by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada out of Vrindavan, when we worship Lord Damodar. And of course, we all know Damodar refers to Mother Yasoda binding Krishna with the rope. And have any of you been to the place where this in Gokul where this pastime takes place? Yeah, the mortar is still there, where she bound into. It's a very wonderful place to go to. And actually, during Kartik, this Damodar Leela, it mentions it took place on the 5th day of Kartik. There's a whole breakdown of the different days of Kartik and what takes place on which day. There are 5 activities that are glorified and encouraged during the month of Kartik. Staying awake, and not only during your regular classes, but occasionally staying up all night. Taking early morning bath, the worship of Tulsi Devi, the offering of lamps, and the performance of austerities. These 5 things are encouraged. Now, the chief aim of Ujva Vrata is not, how can I do some austerities here and, really just get into it. The chief aim is to please Radha and Damodar. Radharani is known as the queen of Ujva Vrata. This is her month. Krishna's month is, when's Krishna's month? I have it in my notes here somewhere. Anyway. Yes, just before this, yeah. So, but this Kartik month is Radharani's month. She becomes very satisfied when the devotees perform activities during this time. And when we please her, then she becomes very happy with us and opens the door for our devotion to continue on to Damodar himself. Satyavrata Muni, he mentions in the 8th verse of the Damodar, my obeisances unto Sri Radhika. You are the most beloved. This is the mood of the devotee. They want to satisfy Radharani in some manner or another. So this is her month. So doing these activities during her month, not for seeing how austere I can be, but for bringing some pleasure to Srimati Radharani, who's the queen of the devotees, the queen of the month of Kartik. And by satisfying her in this way, then she gives us that path for being able to please Damodar. So this is the sole activity that we should really be focused on during Kartik month is how can I please the Lord and his representative, Srimati Radharani. Kartik is described as the best of the purifiers, and it's the most glorious of all months of the year. It's particularly a very dear month to Lord Krishna. Now, why would it be particularly dear to Lord Krishna? Well, because it's Radharani's favorite. And therefore, because it's Radharani's favorite, Krishna is very satisfied with it. Krishna actually prefers Radhakund over Shamakund. And it's interesting because you never hear devotees saying, I'm going to Shamakund to take bath. It's always, I'm going to Radhakund. Because Radharani is very satisfied in that way. So, at any rate, because of that, it's Krishna's favorite month. And it's described as being filled with bhakti. The month is described as being filled with bhakti, even for the smallest amount of devotional activity one performs. And the performance of anything during this month yields unlimited benefit. Sometimes it says, like, for instance, when performing the fire homa, when performing the jaga, if one offers fragrant wood, that's very beneficial. But if one offers tulsi, dried tulsi wood into the fire, 1,000 times the benefit. Performing any type of devotional activity during the month of Kartik, 1,000 times the benefit. And performing it in Vrindavan, 1,000 times 1,000 times the benefit. So that's even better there. And the effect of performing those activities, sometimes we do some devotional service and then, it kind of like, all right, the effect was such and such and it's gone now. The effect of performing different types of vrata during Kartik goes lifetime to lifetime. Now, of course, we as Vaishnavas hope this is our last lifetime. But if by some chance it's not, the benefits of having performed austerity during Kartik carry with us. Not just one lifetime either, but many, many lifetimes. So, here it is right here. November, December, yes, you were right. Just at the end is Krishna's favorite month. Yes. Now, Rupa Goswami has another name for Srimati Radharani, referring her to this. She's called Kartika Devi. Kartika Devi means the goddess of the month of Kartik. So these two names are names we can add to our list for naming our disciples or our children, whichever the case may be. So she's the goddess of the month of Kartik. This is the main thing to remember. And the glorification of performing austerities during Kartik is not something that just comes from our Gaudiya time period. This is described, many, many, many places, particularly all the different Puranas give a full description of this. So, since the month of Kartik is important to Krishna, since it's the most dear of Srimati Radharani, one should endeavor to diminish one's sense gratification during this month and perform instead activities that are pleasing to the master of the senses, Lord Krishna himself. So sometimes we think, this might be a little difficult to do, but as we'll see from some of these things, it's not such a hard thing. Satya Yuga, it's the best of all the yugas. We all know that. Pure devotional service is there. Personalities have no vice. There's no influence of any bad qualities. Satya Yuga is the best of all these yugas. And the Vedas are the best of all the scriptures. Srila Prabhupada never diminished any other scriptural path, scriptural instruction, but the Vedas are considered the best of all those. And the Ganges, of course, the best of all rivers. Ganges comes from the very toe of Lord Trivikram himself. In the same way, Kartik is considered the best of all months. So in this category of what is the best of, Kartik is right there. Now, the vratas that one performs during this month, they're described as niyama seva. And niyama seva has certain rules that govern it. And they are that one should rise early in the morning, one should purify oneself, as it mentioned, take bath, one should perform the Mangalarti of Sri Krishna. After performing the bathing in the morning, one should worship the Lord in his form as Damodar. At nighttime, one should offer brilliant lamps with either ghee or sesame seed oil and place them in various places around the Lord's temple, around the base of tulsi plants, and then it says, or in the sky. Now, I thought about the translation on this. Now, of course, if we're mystically empowered, we can just put them. But basically, this means on the doorways and archways around so that it's high up and they can be seen easily like that. So these activities. It's also recommended during the month of Kartik that one should only eat Krishna Prasadam. Sometimes we have a tendency, particularly as householders, to eat elsewhere or in a circumstance or a rush of a moment to buy something here or there or whatever. During the month of Kartik, we should be particularly adamant to endeavor only to eat Krishna Prasadam. One should also renounce during this month excessive eating and excessive sleeping. The activity of sleeping is very fond to those of us who are, engaged in sense gratification. So which, when you really think about it, I mean, what is so enjoyable about sleeping? It's totally a mode of ignorance. I mean, we have no knowledge of what we're doing. We can't derive any pleasure while we're doing it because we're unconscious. And it's only when we get up from doing it that we think, oh, well, that was nice. But what was nice about it? We were completely unconscious about it. So at least during the month of Kartik, you should give up excessive sleeping. Now, this doesn't mean to be foolish and, I'm only going to sleep 4 hours a night. Because none of us can exist on 4 hours of sleep. Medically, we can't do it, and functionally, we can't do it. But, to reduce it, and to reduce the eating. Sometimes eating once a day can be done, but we have to be practical in this regards too. At least some type of restriction, Maybe that last bag of chips at, 10 o'clock at night is not really so necessary, like that. Yeah. Maybe I don't have to make sure that the wife's always got Magnum bars in the freezer. It mentions that in addition to honoring Prasadam, one should daily hear, or, this is the important point, recite scriptures in the company of Vaishnavas. In the company of Vaishnavas. Yasoda and I have been talking about this a lot in the last few hours I've been in his company. This importance of Harikatha, this importance of discussing the pastimes of the Lord, and discussing it in the company of Vaishnavas. Because let's be honest, except for us who appreciates this, I can tell you from experience, the guys I work with don't want anything to do with this subject matter. Even if I try and sneak a little something in, I remember, it's a true story. I was having a little bit of a moment of realization, and I said to one of my managers, we were talking about something, and he was talking about how he couldn't get somebody to do something or whatever. I said, it's amazing how the false ego really restricts our activities. And he looked at me, he said, what? Well, the false ego. Ego? There's an ego in the building? Where is it? It couldn't even comprehend. And I was like, no, I was just making, I'm sorry. I just turned around and walked away and realized, okay, just don't go there. There's an ego? Where's the ego? Yeah. So, at any rate, this Shravanam Kirtanam in the Association of Vaishnavas, this is something we should look to increase during the month of Kartik.
There are no Vaishnavas, and now does your husband comprise of?
Yeah, then your husband gets to hear and he gets to tell you. Yes, my wife is expert at this. Because I go to work quite early before the Bhagavatam classes started. So when I come home for lunch, so-and-so gave class this morning. Oh, okay. And what they said was, whether I'm interested to hear it or not, the information is there. And when I'm not interested, I know it's only my own shortcomings. But yes, so describing like that. Actually, every Friday I speak at the devotee school at Bhaktivedanta Academy in Alachua, and I talk about Vaishnavacharyas to all the different grade classes. And we were discussing, this past Friday, the different Vrindavan temples, the deities, and the Goswamis they're connected with. And so I told them, we talked about this one, this one, this one, and the Goswamis. And so one of the students here said, how do you remember these things? I said, are you asking how do I remember, or are you asking how do we remember? She said, well, both. I said, and the answer is the same for both. When you hear something, you repeat it to someone else, and then when you repeat that, it sticks with you more. I have this practice when I've got my break at work. I go out and there's a hill nearby, and I sit there and I read Brihat Bhagavatam Rita, or Madhurya Dham, which is a book about Govardhan. And if I come across something very interesting, when I go in, I work with a couple of the devotees. I find one of them so I can share that. Or, because of where I'm located, so many devotees shop there. And they heard about Prabhu, hey, you know what I was just reading? And I'm eager to get it out there, because by getting it out there, then it'll stick. So yeah, to the husband, to the children, calling up a friend. You know what I just? My wife's expert at this. You know what I just read in the Bhagavatam? You know, like that. You know, so these types of things. These are the ways that we do this. You know, increase our hearing during that month, which means increase our kirtan. Kirtan meaning to speak what we've heard. And as we were discussing, those two activities then increase our smarana, our remembrance. Hearing, receiving it, kirtan, hearing, chanting, giving it, remembering it. Shravanam, kirtanam, smarana. So these three activities will allow it to take root in our heart. Now there's a very wonderful chapter in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that describes Kartik Mahatmya, it quotes from. And there was some texts in there I thought were suitable to read. I surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was tied about the waist with a rope, and who is the lover of Sri Radha. By his power, one is able to serve his favored month, the month of Kartik. This has an important point in it, by his power. As Vaishnavas, we never think we're able to do this on our own. This particular prayer I offer before I give any kind of a lecture or anything. Mukam karoti vachanam pandu. I'm blind, I'm deaf, I'm incapable. This is from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the Chaitanya Srila. But by your grace, I can be successful. So this is the mood that one should have. The duties in the month of Kartik are clearly described in the Skanda Purana, in the Padma Purana, and in various other scriptures. The essence of what they say is collected here in this one place. Especially in the month of Kartik, a Vaishnava should regularly bathe in the morning, worship Lord Damodar, give charity, follow vows, and perform other spiritual activities. We see these five repeatedly, regardless of who's quoting from where. These five are encouraged during this month. Additionally, Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice description in the Nectar Devotion about the month of Kartik. The execution of devotional service during Ujva Vrata in the month of Kartik is especially performed in Mathura. This system is still followed by many devotees. They go to Mathura or to Vrindavan, and they stay there during the month of Kartik, specifically to perform devotional services during this period. In the Padma Purana, it is said, the Lord may offer liberation or material happiness to a devotee. But after some devotional service has been executed, particularly in Mathura during the month of Kartik, the devotee only wants pure devotional service to the Lord. Excuse me. The devotee only wants pure devotional service to the Lord. So this Prabhupada saying here is culminating after performing devotional service. Excuse me. What is the result one looks for? There are, in accordance with Chaturmasya, there are different karma kandya results. If one doesn't take any salt, one gets a beautiful voice. One doesn't use any oil on the skin, one's body becomes very beautiful.
This is during Kartik.
What's that?
This was during Kartik?
Yes, Kartik Chaturmasya period. If one sleeps on the floor, due to the humility, one inherits a kingdom, like that. So all these different types of things, that can be there. But that's not why a devotee performs these activities. Prabhupada says right here, particularly during the month of Kartik, the devotees want only pure devotional service to the Lord. Back to the opening point, Brahmins performing austerity, they perform this austerity to get great Brahman tejas. Vaishnavas perform these austerities to get Vaishnava seva, to get the service to the devotees and to please the personality of Godhead. This is, as Prabhupada says, all that they want is this pure devotional service to the Lord. Then he continues, the purport is that the Lord does not award devotional service to ordinary persons who are not serious about it. But even such unserious persons who execute devotional service according to regulated principles during the month of Kartik within the jurisdiction of Mathura can very easily be awarded the Lord's personal service. This is how glorified Kartik is. That means if somehow or another, somebody that's not even a devotee goes to Mathura during Kartik and does something, they can be greatly benefited. Now, particularly in regards to Mathura, there's some additional, there's a handful of verses here I want to read because they give a very important point here. The month of Kartik, when Lord Hari enjoyed his Damodar pastime in Mathura, the lights, Lord Vaikunthadev himself. The month of Kartik spent in Mathura brings the supreme destination. As Prayag should be observed in the month of Magh, the Ganges in the month should be served in the month of Magh. The Ganges should be served in the month of Vishaka. So Mathura should be served in the month of Kartik. Nothing is better than that service. They who, even without proper mantras, proper offerings, and without properly following the rules, worship the Supreme Lord in Mathura during Kartik, the Lord considers them his true devotees. They who, as a joke, serve Lord Hari during Kartik in Mathura will obtain pure devotional service. What to speak of those who serve the Lord with great faith and devotion. Therefore, O Prince, nothing is better than to serve Lord Damodar in Mathura during the month of Kartik. Pure devotional service to me, pure devotional service to me, which because it places me under my devotee's dominion, is very difficult to obtain, is easily obtained by following vows in Mathura during Kartik.
Now, Mathura means Vrindavan also, right? It's the land of
Mathura Vrindavan. So, and this is exactly the point I wanted to stress here, is that importance is put on Mathura Vrindavan. Vrindavan is in the district of Mathura, in the city of Mathura, part of that area, when one observes Kartik. There's a big stress on this, but how possible is it for all of us, any of us, to regularly go to Mathura, to be in Mathura during Kartik time? But Prabhupada has once again boiled down the milk, if you will, and made it very clear that these temples that we're associated with, these temples that we live in, that we worship at, these are the holy places. These are non-different than Mathura and Vrindavan. These are places which can give us the same benefits. So during Kartik, to go to Tuaco, Central New Jersey, the Bhakti Center, Brooklyn, wherever, and do our seva, we're getting the same benefit as if we're doing it in Mathura. This is the potency of Srila Prabhupada spreading Krishna consciousness. Now, this isn't to say that one shouldn't endeavor to go to Vrindavan during Kartik. If one can do that, it's very, very nice. But if one's not able to, there's no need for lamentation, because then one can do this. But even one step further, Prabhupada encouraged that our homes should become a temple. Mm-hmm. And this is the importance of deity worship within the home of the householder. Prabhupada has stressed that every home should have deities, because now the deities become the Lord of the house. No longer is the house a place for my sense gratification. The house is now a place where the Lord resides. Anything that's brought into the home is immediately offered to the deity. Any prasadam that's cooked is offered to the deity. The children are trained to come in the morning. Prabhupada tells that wonderful story. One very wealthy family, they had the deity in their home, which was a tradition in India. They had the Brahmin priest who was there doing seva, and the grandmother had passed one rule. Some people think that the Vedic culture is a patriarchal society. We all know it's a matriarchal society. The grandmother runs everything. So the grandmother made one rule. Any of my grandchildren and children that do not come and see the deity, they'll be fined. So if they didn't come that day, the priest would issue them a ticket. Sir, you've been fined, you must pay this. Like that. And when Prabhupada was telling the story, he was telling it in LA in 1972. He said, therefore I propose that we have a fine, and if someone doesn't come to the Mangal Arti, they must distribute one Krishna book that day. Is that all right? And all the devotees cheered. But in this way, the temple can also be a holy place of pilgrimage. You know, here again, we can always look to Prabhupada for examples of this. He gives this famous example. He said, there are two houses. Here's our temple here, and right next door is a house. He said, what is the difference? They're both made of bricks. They're both cooking is going on inside. Both have so many activities. In one temple, in one house, everything is about Krishna, and in the other house, it is all about sense gratification. So even in our communities, so many nice houses on this street here, beautiful places, nice manicured yards. Why is this one any different? Because we have Krishna Balaram, we have Govardhan, we have Shalini here, so therefore the house is honorable.
That's not a good example because they've made everybody devotees in this whole neighborhood.
Oh, really? Oh, that's what happens. You invite an outsider to speak. So, here's some suggestions on service performed during Kartik. Remembrance, Smarna. We were talking about this. Kartik Vrata is very special because it's a time of year that we worship Radha Damodar. My wife is very good about this. The first day of Kartik, she'll go to the cupboard. We have a box there. She'll bring it down. It's got that little Yasoda Damodar deity that we've all probably got in our homes. Sets it on the altar there. Boom. It's there for the whole month of Kartik. Offers arti every day like that, So this is particular to this month. It's a very easy way to do it. If you don't have in your home, you can order online, I'm sure, And, so this is done. There's a nice prayer given for starting Kartik. O Gopikas, by your mercy, may Radha and Krishna be pleased with my Kartik Vrata. O Janardhan, O Damodar, O Devas, who are accompanied by Sri Radhika. During the month of Kartik, I will bathe early every morning for your satisfaction. And then there's another vow that is used primarily when accepting any type of a vrata. I'm taking this vow before you, O Lord. By your grace, O Keshava, you will allow it to be undestroyed, even though I am less than a Sudra. By your grace, may I follow it completely, O Janardhan, my Lord. Hari Bhakti Vilas gives a list of benefits. I was mentioning earlier different types of benefits. There's the benefits that are associated with karmakanda practice, like I mentioned, of good boys, beautiful skin, whatever. But then there's the benefits that come from devotional practices. By performing any type of austerity during the month of Kartik, all sins flee from the heart. This is something, hopefully we're not incurring any more, but we have a storehouse of sins, it mentions, from many lifetimes. So all of these sins can be easily eradicated by the performance of Kartik Vrata. And the performance of any other kind of Vrata does not have anywhere near the potency of activities done during the month of Kartik. As I mentioned, 1,000 times the benefit of anything we do. And it mentions that if someone engages in austerity and devotional service during the month of Kartik, it is understood that within their body all the holy places reside. It's an amazing statement. So that means we can all come to Yasoda-dulal and circumambulate him. And it's just as if we've gone to all the different pilgrimage places during the month of Kartik. As long as we can get him to give up eating cheesecake during Kartik. I don't know if that's possible. And the benefit again of worshiping Lord Damodar is that one easily, the word easily is stressed here, attains Krishna Bhakti. The process of attaining Krishna Bhakti is not always so easy. It's actually pointed out that when Dhruva Maharaj performed his austerities and finally get the darshan of Lord Vishnu, this was during the month of Kartik. That as a result of the austerities, it was during the month of Kartik that Lord Vishnu appeared to him. Interesting side story. I was with my wife once. We were in Sarasota, Florida, and we were, well, I won't say we, she was doing her usual secondhand store shopping. And we stopped at this place, and she wanted to, it was this, that, or the other. All right, so it was an old Jewish lady that was running the place, and I just kind of went to the back and was looking around different things, and I saw this little wooden box on a shelf. And you know, you've seen these kind of teak wood Indian boxes, and you know, they've got the hinge and inside and like that. No, this looks nice. And I went over and picked it up, and I was shocked at what I saw on the top of it. The cover of it was hand carved Dhruva Maharaj sitting on a tree stump in full meditation pose, and Lord Vishnu with his 4 arms appearing right before him, with the one arm extended with the conch shell. We know I touched him with the conch shell. So I opened it up. It had a little velvet lining in it and all. So I looked at the price. It said $20. So I set it back down. I took it up front to the lady that was running the register. I said, I saw this boxes back there. What's the price on it? She says, it's on the bottom, $20. I said, yeah, but this one hinge is a little rusted here, and this is a little loose there. I'll give you $12 for it. She said, make it 15 and it's a deal. So for $15, I got this box, which I still have at home. And the top of it has this carving of Dhruva Maharaj during the month of Kartik, receiving the darshan of Lord Vishnu. So that box has a special Kartik place in my mind. So some do's and don'ts. Of course, we've already described rise very early, bathe, chant japa and offer Mangal Arti. Hear the Srimad Bhagavatam in the association. This is an interesting word, in the association of exalted Vaishnavas. Now, you brought up the point earlier, what if the only Vaishnava I have is my husband? We may or may not consider our husband exalted, depending on the particular day of the month or the mood of the day. But the fact of the matter is, anyone engaged in performing devotional service is exalted. Because as we've described, compare them to, and the people on your block, the people you work with, the people in my store. These people have no really redeeming qualities. So, yes, exalted Vaishnavas, that describes those of us that are making an endeavor. Continually engage in japa and kirtan, doing extra rounds and more kirtan with the family. These are practical things that we can do. We have these other lists of things that may or may not be able to be done by us, but rising early, bathing, hearing the Bhagavatam, chanting extra japa and kirtan with the family, Tulsi Arti, and offering lamps to Damodar. This is, every home I've been to since I've been here has a Tulsi plant. There's one house near where I live. I drive by it every day. Excuse me. Neither my wife or I are sure who lives there. But what we do know is they're a devotee, because on a nice metal stand out front is a big Tulsi plant. We've never seen anybody there. Not sure who it is, but there's a Tulsi plant there. So all Vaishnava lives there. So we all have Tulsi in the home. So offering our tea to Tulsi, offering our tea to Damodar, get you a little Damodar statue and daily like that. And giving in charity to the devotees. Charity doesn't necessarily mean here's $1 per book. Give some, you go to visit a devotee, take some fruits, take some flowers, give a nice chutter, whatever. Some charity to Vaishnavas. And maintaining celibacy for the entire month of Kartik. These are essential activities recommended for performance of Kartik Vrata. And then it gives a list of things not to do. Not to eat grains cooked by others. This takes us back to...
I had a question.
Oh, yes.
Things to do. So, it says you have to give charity to Vaishnavas. But what about if you give charity to other general people too?
General people's not bad, but it specifies giving in charity to Vaishnavas during this month. So, we support Aunt Teresa's soup kitchen or whatever. That's a nice thing to do. But during the month of Kartik, better to give in charity to Vaishnavas. Yeah. The don'ts. We're mentioning not eating grains cooked by others. This goes back to the point of eating only Krishna Prashadam. Other people, what they're cooking, they're not offering to the Lord. We already know that. So during this month, we want to eat only Krishna Prashadam, which means we only eat grains cooked by Vaishnavas. Foods that can be given up during this month: honey, sesame seeds, various types of oils, asafoetida, eggplant, sweets, and fried foods. Sounds like a pretty austere month to me. One should endeavor to give up one's favorite food article for the entire month. And this is a very individual vow. You may like cheesecake, you may like glubshamins, you may like, jackfruit, whatever it is. So, one should make an effort to, give that up. We all know what it is, what our favorite food is. So for that month, we should endeavor to try and eat only once a day. This may or may not be possible or practical according to our particular scenario, but it's one of the things that it's encouraged that we try to avoid. And it's encouraged to observe Nirjal Vrata on Ekadasi and to stay away, particularly on Uttana Ekadasi, which is the final Ekadasi during the Bhishma Panchaka, the last 5 days. If one can arrange, okay, this is coming up. If it means, all right, I need to take that day off of work, or if it means I need to schedule some appointment on a different day, if we plan ahead, we can do like that. So looking at that and then, okay, let me do Nirjal for this. It gives indication as to the type of mood one should have. Peacefulness. If I'm taking up vratas and austerities, but I'm in total anxiety and stressed out about it, what's the point? There's no benefit there. One should have a very peaceful mood, which is why one should do what's practical. Some of these things altogether may be very easy for someone and not so easy for someone else. This is why there's a certain simplicity to it, of being able to figure out what to do. Peacefulness, one-pointed devotion, Dridha Vrata, having one's focus very clearly determined, and having determination in the execution of that, which comes from this prayer that I gave you here. My Lord, may it be undestroyed even though I am less than a Sudra. By your grace may I follow this vow. And cleanliness of